Hey everybody, this is D'Angelo here, and I'm hosting the Practice Biopsy podcast. Practice Biopsy is business and self-improvement support for dentists. Today I have a great guest, Dr. Bridgett McNew Jorgensen. I hope I said your last name properly.
Yes.
Who Bridgett has been a dentist for years and years, and more recently took on a really amazing project called Dental Practice Matchmaker that we're going to talk about today and how that influences something that's very important in dentistry to me. So, Bridgett, can you just give a little introduction to the audience? Everyone listening is a dentist also,
Okay.
about your a brief touch point of your career in dentistry, private practice, group practice, where are you located? And then how did you get the idea to create Dental Practice Matchmaker and talk a little bit about its trajectory of where it's become today? I saw a photo, started off with just you, I think, and now you have a whole team of people. So talk about what that's
Mhm.
been like.
It's been great, actually. I started in dentistry when I was 19. So I went to my orthodontist and said, I like teeth. What should I do? And he said, well, you should be a hygienist. And I was like, okay, did not even know what that was. But kind of started the prereqs to do that. Moved down to Georgia in the meantime, and I was on a waiting list for hygiene. So I worked as a receptionist in the dental office while I was in hygiene school. Got out of hygiene school, worked 2 years as a hygienist, was kind of bored, so went back to dental school and I graduated in 1992. So I've been in dentistry totally like 42 years, and I've been a dentist for 33 years. So, um, I've had an interesting career because I have worked in corporate, I've worked in public health, and I've worked in a private practice, my own. Um, and there is no comparison to being able to steer your own ship for the most part. And we did that, and we did a lot of cool things too. I mean, you can't. We had childcare in our office. I know you just had another baby, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have childcare in our office because we had four kids. And it's like if you have four children, then it's very expensive, number one, for daycare. But if I could get somebody to be in our office in a separate room, take care of the kids, take care of my staff's kids, we would have less absentees and all that fun stuff. So that was my normal career. I ended up in private practice. I sold my practice. Well, preface that say I my husband got bought out for his company, and right afterwards he was like, you need to sell the practice so that we can go travel and do all this fun stuff. So the only way at the time was to sign up with a broker, and we did. It was an extraordinarily bad situation and everything. So we ended up pulling out of that entirely. And I'm like, well, we can do this better. So we mailed out 700 letters. So anybody that had been in the general area or had a dental license within, I don't know, 30 miles of Atlanta. And they were out anywhere from 2 to 5 years, because that's kind of the sweet spot, I think. And we ended up getting three candidates, and one of those people ended up buying my practice. But she worked for me for 3 years, and then I work for her now.
Do you
So,
remember how you got the contact information for the 700 dentists who were recent grads?
so at the time, and this is not true anymore, but at the time on the Georgia Board of Dentistry, you could find out where they live, or you could see the town, not necessarily, doesn't mean they live there. And then you could go by their license number to figure out how long they had been out of school.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so but I don't think they allow it anymore, so that screwed up. But so yeah, I sold my practice in 2018. Got kind of bored. My daughter, in the meantime, graduated from dental school in 2018, and her intent was never to come back and practice with me, so that wasn't a big deal. But she ended up moving to Birmingham. Um, when she moved to Birmingham, she had worked in Boston at a corporate practice and realized that was awful. So when she moved to Birmingham, she found a private practice. Um, there were some issues there too. So when the whole world shut down in 2020, she's like, I either want to buy a practice or I want to start one. And we're like, okay, but we didn't want her to lose her job in case this guy actually wanted to call her back, right? So the only way for her to put out a broadcast, yes, I'd like a practice, is to be anonymous. Well, at the time, you couldn't really do that, but because I'm a dentist and it's just the next state over, she's in Alabama, we're in Georgia. I put kind of a post on one of the Facebook groups over there saying, hey, I'm moving from Georgia. I would like to buy a fully functioning practice somewhere in Birmingham. And again, we got maybe three or four candidates. She went and looked at them, and I think the second day she's like, "This is the one." So in the meantime, we drove over there and looked at a few also with her, but kept coming back to the same one. So when we realized that nobody else, most people don't have a mom that could post anonymously like that, it's like there has to be an easier way to do this to where everybody has this option because I think a lot of people want to be in private practice, but they don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Because if you get out of school and you immediately start working for, in theory, a guaranteed income at a DSO, it's hard to leave that without letting everyone know, because you do have to tell people you'd like to buy a practice. You can't,
Right.
fathom them.
The anonymity is difficult.
Exactly. So, we just started in 2021, a little bitty Facebook group. Yeah, in our month we hit 22,000. So
It's a big Facebook group.
it's a big, big group. And yeah, I just, it's renewed my faith that people want to be in private practice. I was seeing all the younger dentists go into this DSOs and I realized, that's probably not where they want to be permanently, but it's a good starting point. But then once they get to that 2 or 3 year mark, how do they go about finding something that would fit for them? It's also really good because like my daughter went to school in Boston. She ended up moving to Alabama. So, and at the time we didn't have this thing, but I mean, if you're going to school somewhere, but you want to come home or you want to be, within an hour of your friends and family, at this point, you can just go to that state in Matchmaker and look up all the practices that are for sale or look up all the practices that need associates. So it's not so much move and then,
You
be
can have a
worried you're not
plan.
going to be able to find a job. You probably could find one before you go.
I love that. What do you think the market is like right now as far as practices? So sometimes they say it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's
Mhm.
market. What is it for dental practices right now?
Well, there are fewer sellers than there are buyers. So, in theory, that means it's a seller's market. But it all depends on where the practice is because some practices are booming, but they're in a place that not many people want to live.
Mhm.
So, they have probably enjoyed their entire career, 30 years or whatever, living in that town, but it's hard to convey that to a newer dentist that this would be a great career move for you and they're thinking, oh, but I would like to date and are there good schools for my kids and stuff like that. So it's hard. I think if you have a great practice in a great location, you're golden. You're not going to have any trouble whatsoever selling this practice. If you don't have a great location and it's an older practice and you've kind of pulled back because you've already made money, so you're getting ready to sell it. You're working 2, 3 days a week. The value of your practice will go down because it's based on collections. So, it just depends on where you are.
Um, so I was thinking about something you mentioned a little earlier, which is when you went through the process for yourself, you hired a
Mhm.
broker and then a broker is a broker. Do you
Mhm.
feel like dental practice matchmaker eliminates the need to have a broker at all? Like if you just have dental practice matchmaker and then maybe an attorney to do the paperwork, do we need brokers?
No, 100%. We deal with brokers all the time because we've been doing due diligence for people. So a client will come and say, I want to buy this practice. but I need information. I need to make sure it's worth what they say it's worth, and I'm going to pay that. So we end up having to deal with the broker to get information like practice reports and P&L and just basic information that any business that is selling should be able to provide. And it's a nightmare. They just do not want to give up information. Even if it's a great practice, they're still hiding things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is so ridiculous.
So how do you build your database of opportunities? So if I want to buy a practice and I go on dental practice matchmaker,
Mhm.
how are you building your inventory of practices? Are you cold calling? Are you buying lists from brokers? How are you building that inventory?
Not at all. If it doesn't come through organically, we don't have it.
Okay.
So any person can go on there and they can submit a post for that they'd like to sell, that they'd like to buy, that they'd like to hire, or that they're available to hire. Once that post is put into Facebook, and there's a couple things that go on before that. So we get, pay not patients, but people apply to be in the group. If they're in the group, I vet them 100%. So there are only dentists and family members of dentists and specialists and spouses sometimes, and dental students. So once they're in the group, we kind of know they're okay. Um, and then when they go to post, if they, and we had this happen, at the very beginning, we found out like a DSO person was in there and they were posting, but they were posting for like Hawaii and Texas and Connecticut. And I was like, that is not one dentist.
Yeah,
So
something's up.
we have narrowed down to where now you have to put the post in and we have to approve it before it even goes on our site. Once it goes on our site, at the same time that it goes on our site, somebody takes a blurb of that and moves it over to our app under the right state and under the right category. So everything that's in our app is something that has been on Facebook.
It's been
And it's
pulled from the
very,
Facebook group.
uh-huh. I mean, there are people that have joined the app, and they do their own post within the app. And we do not go back out to Facebook and put those on there. So the people that are in the app will tend to see a little bit more than people that are just in Facebook because there's more organic stuff in there. But I mean, it has worked really, really well. At the very beginning, we wanted everybody to hashtag stuff like hashtag your city, your state, and what you're doing. Are you buying, selling, whatever? And we just gave up. I mean, there's too many people,
Just
and
too many to manage.
some people just come on, and they're there for a day or so and they don't understand the concept at all. So we created the app because we have all this information and we know that people need the information. So we might as well make it very easy for them. You can still find things on Facebook and contact those people on Facebook. It's we have a more direct way to contact
Yeah,
them through
you
the
make
app.
it easy. You simplify
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
What are some things that a dentist who like they've been working at a DSO and they're ready to be a practice owner, what do you think are some things they can do to position themselves as a buyer so that when the right practice comes along, they're actually ready to pull the trigger?
absolutely. So there's learning and then there's concrete stuff. I would say go up to the front desk wherever you're working and just hang out there for as long as humanly possible. See, what the phone calls are like, what the EOBs are like, how to enter them in your system. Um, the other thing is, you got to know some kind of accounting. You're running a business. And, I was very lucky. My husband has a business degree. So he ran the business and I ran the clinical. But if you're doing it by yourself and our daughter's doing it by herself, she needs to know basic accounting. And it's not hard. It's just dentists are like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to turn over my CPA. But if you turn over your CPA, you'll get reports, but you'll get them maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks later. And that doesn't help you be able to change anything in your practice if you're always so delayed. So learn QuickBooks, figure out a lot of stuff about insurance if you plan on being in network or out of net, or you still have to deal with insurance usually. And then the other thing is to go ahead and set up your corporation. So people that are getting ready to sign like a letter of intent or they just found a practice, they really don't have the means to even get into it without their corporation. So they'll usually set up a corporation, set up all the legal documents, stuff like that, so that when you find the practice that you want, you're able to hop on top of it, do a letter of intent, and kind of go smoothly through.
Something else that you mentioned was you've been doing a lot of due diligence.
Mhm.
What are things like if a dentist is listening right now, maybe they're working with you guys, maybe they're not, but there's a practice that they're interested in. What should they be keeping in mind for their due diligence? Like, what do they really have to make sure they're doing when it comes to their due diligence?
So I just started last night. I did a post because we're going to stop doing the due diligence because there are 22,000 people, and a lot of them are in these transition states, and they need this service, which is fabulous. But there's not that many of us, and it's using all of our bandwidth. So I'm like, okay. I feel bad that we're not going to be able to do it anymore. What can I do to help that? I am literally writing everything in Facebook, and it'll probably be every 4 days or so, and doing another thing saying, okay, I think my first one was, I don't even remember, but that way it'll be like what report you need, and then what are you looking for in that report, or what are red flags in that report? Um, so it's stuff like that. So I've got that taken care of actually. But
Nice.
if a dentist is, make sure it's similar to the way you practice. I don't think it's ever a good idea, somebody that wants to only see adults end up buying a very family practice that has a lot of kids in it because they'll be unhappy and probably the patients will not be all that thrilled either.
Good. Bridget, I like to keep these around 20 minutes, and we're coming up right
Okay.
on 20 minutes already, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Are there any questions you have for me or any last parting things that you would want the dentist in the practice biopsy group to hear?
I think you've been phenomenal by getting out of school and buying or starting a practice right off the bat. That's hard to do, and you've made it extraordinarily successful. So I guess let other dentists know that they can do that.
Okay.
Yes, I know.
I
And
think you're letting them know that too. Like you said,
yeah,
you see so many working at DSOs, and you have to think you don't really want to. So
no.
let's think about what else we
And
can do.
and what it does is when they're in the DSOs, they start to hate dentistry. They don't hate the DSO. Well, they might, but they hate dentistry. And I've talked to a lot of, 30-year-olds that are like, I just don't think this career is for me. And they've
Yeah,
been
they
out
want to
for four
retire when they're
years.
30.
Yeah, and it's like you can't do that. You have to pursue the option that is best for you. And sometimes that's ownership and sometimes it's not.
I like it.
Mhm.
Thank you for your time.
You're
If
very
I can
welcome.
ever contribute to you in any way, please let me know. I'm always
Okay,
willing.
sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Bridget.
Bye bye.
Bye.